First story, The Hollow Wind Whispers. It was late February when I first arrived in the quiet, frost-bitten village of Ashford Hollow, nestled deep in the woods of northern Washington. I was supposed to help manage my late uncle's cabin, fix the roof, clean out his belongings, maybe even sell the place come spring. But the moment I stepped onto that cracked porch, with snow crunching under my boots and the trees swaying like old bones, I felt like I'd made a mistake. The village was nearly deserted. Most of the homes stood silent, their windows boarded or broken, and I didn't see a single soul on my way through the crooked main road. The general store was shuttered, and a notice on the door flapped in the wind. It said simply, "Stay inside after dark." I should have left then. The first night I heard the wind howling like it was alive, clawing at the corners of the house. But it wasn't just the wind. Something heavier dragged along the snow outside, slow and steady. I peeked through the curtains and saw nothing but trees. Still, I didn't sleep. By the third night, I was hearing the stories. An old man, Walter, the only person who still lived there year-round, came knocking just before sunset. His skin was pale, almost gray, like he hadn't seen the sun in years. "You keep your fire going all night," he told me. "Don't let it die. And if you hear it scratching, don't look out the window." I asked him what it was, but he only stared at the tree line and muttered, "It's hungry. It always is this time of year. End of winter before the thaw. That's when it hunts." I thought he was crazy, until I remembered the rumors. Before I came here, I'd heard about strange deaths in nearby villages. People found frozen inside their homes, faces twisted in terror, doors still locked from the inside. I tried to stay rational. Cold air, carbon monoxide, a wild animal maybe. But that night, as the fire dimmed, I heard it again. First the whispering, like wind slipping through a crack, but it formed words I couldn't quite catch. Then the scratching, not at the door, at the walls, at the windows, all around. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just fed the fire with every log I had. The sound faded before sunrise. The next morning, I found long, deep grooves in the snow around the cabin. Like claws, but too wide, too long. I told myself it had to be a bear, maybe a moose. But there were no tracks, just the marks, and the trees all leaning slightly inward, like they were bowing to something I couldn't see. I tried to call out, no signal. The phone line was dead too. I found Walter again that afternoon. He looked worse, thinner, like something was draining the life out of him. "You got firewood?" he asked. I nodded. "You staying here tonight?" I didn't answer. "Don't listen to it," he said, his voice shaking. "It's getting bold. It wants in." That night, I heard it again. This time, closer. The scratching turned to pounding, slow, deliberate. It wanted me to know it was there. Then came the voice, a low, croaking whisper right by the window. "Let me in." I didn't move. "I know you hear me." It was my uncle's voice. I swear to God, it sounded exactly like him. "It's cold out here." The door handle rattled. The walls shook. I gripped the fire poker and backed into the kitchen, heart pounding. The fire was almost out. I hadn't noticed. I lunged forward and threw the last log in. It roared back to life. And just like that, the noise stopped. Total silence. At dawn, I opened the door. Snow had fallen again. Everything was clean, pristine, except for one thing, a handprint, pressed into the frost on the window, long, narrow fingers, and too many of them. I ran to Walter's, but his door was open. Inside, the fire was cold. His body sat stiff in the chair, eyes wide open, mouth frozen in a silent scream. The wall beside him was carved with one word. Soon. I didn't pack. I didn't look back. I drove until I saw cars again, until I reached a gas station with lights and people and noise. But sometimes at night, when the wind is just right, I still hear it whispering, calling my name, and I know it remembers me. And one day, it will find its way in. Second story. Whispers Through the Cotton Hollow. I never planned to return to Cotton Hollow. The place had a way of crawling under your skin and staying there, like a splinter too deep to pull out. My parents used to take me there every summer, small town in Mississippi, the kind of place where time stopped and the air always smelled like rain on dirt. We stopped going after my cousin Jeremy disappeared. That was over 15 years ago. I only went back because of the will. My grandmother left me her old house, the one sitting on the edge of town near the abandoned cotton fields. No one else in the family wanted it, and I figured I'd stay a couple nights, clear the place out, maybe sell it. Simple. That was the plan. The house hadn't changed. Same creaky porch, same peeling paint. I stepped inside and the air was thick, like the walls were holding their breath. Dust covered everything. Furniture, pictures, the floor. It was like walking into a memory that didn't want to be remembered. The first night was quiet, but I kept waking up. There were sounds, whispers, soft footsteps, a door creaking open even though I'd locked every one. I told myself it was just the old place settling. Old houses make noise, right? On the second night, I found Jeremy's baseball cap under the floorboards in my room. Same faded red cap he wore every day the summer he vanished. I hadn't seen it since. My hands were shaking when I picked it up. There was something else down there too, a photograph, yellowed and curled at the edges. Jeremy, standing in the backyard of this house. But behind him was something wrong. A figure in the window, tall, thin, no face. I tried to sleep, but the whispering got louder. It wasn't random anymore. It was saying my name. The third night, I found the door to the basement unlocked. I hadn't opened it. I was sure I hadn't. The stairs groaned under my weight as I went down, flashlight flickering like it didn't want me to see what was below. The air turned cold. Not chilly, frozen. My breath fogged in front of me. The basement was empty except for one thing. A chair. A child-sized chair. And rope. Stained. I ran back upstairs, slammed the door, and shoved a dresser in front of it. That night, I heard footsteps in the hallway. Slow, dragging footsteps. They stopped outside my door. Something scratched the wood. I didn't sleep. I should have left. I should have packed up and driven away and never looked back. But I didn't. I had to know. The fourth day, I went into town. No one would talk to me. The grocery store was nearly empty. The clerk wouldn't look me in the eye. I asked about Jeremy. One old man, gray beard and shaking hands, muttered something about the Hollow taking what it wants. That night, I dreamed of the cotton fields. They were alive, swaying like ocean waves. And in the middle, Jeremy stood with his back to me. When I called out, he turned. His eyes were gone. He mouthed something, and I woke up screaming. The fifth night was the worst. I woke up at exactly 3:23 a.m. The house was silent, too silent. I grabbed my flashlight and made my way to the window. The fields were glowing, pale blue light, shifting like mist. Then I saw them. Figures, dozens of them, moving through the cotton. Their bodies flickered like bad reception on an old TV. No faces, just black voids where eyes and mouths should be. They stopped. All of them. They looked at me. Then they started walking toward the house. I ran downstairs, but the front door was gone. Just gone. The walls groaned, the floor twisted beneath my feet. The air turned thick, like syrup in my lungs. I stumbled back to the living room and saw her, my grandmother. She was sitting in her old chair, smiling, but her eyes were wrong, hollow, her mouth opened wide, too wide. "They come for blood," she said, voice not hers. "The field must feed." The windows shattered, cold wind poured in, carrying voices, so many voices, screaming, crying, laughing. I tried to run, but the house was shifting, folding in on itself. The hallway stretched longer and longer. I ran and ran, but got nowhere. Then I saw Jeremy, standing at the end of the hall. He raised his hand. "Don't let them in," he said. But it was too late. The door behind me blew open and everything went dark. I woke up on the edge of the field. Morning light. Silence. The house was gone, not burned, not destroyed. Gone, like it had never existed. I walked into town. Nobody recognized me. I showed them the picture of Jeremy. They said no one by that name had ever lived there. I checked public records. No house listed under my grandmother's name. No death certificate. Nothing. I tried to leave Cotton Hollow. The road took me in circles. I've been trying for days. I don't think the town ever let me leave. And tonight, the whispers are back. Dear viewers, before we begin the next horror story, I want to say, if you wish, you can support this YouTube channel financially through the details on the screen or in the description below the video. Thank you for your attention. Third story, Whispers Beyond Sellock Ridge. I never thought a place like Sellock could exist in real life, hidden away in the dense pines of northern Washington off a winding road that barely showed up on GPS. I was chasing stories, like always. Local legends, haunted towns, things that could get me clicks. But Sellock wasn't just another forgotten name on an old map. It was a wound left open too long, and I ripped off the scab without knowing. It started when I stumbled across a thread on a conspiracy forum. A guy posted about an abandoned village called Sellock Ridge, supposedly wiped all official records after some event in the early 70s. No coordinates, just a blurry photo of a rusted welcome sign half buried in moss and thyme. I don't know why it hooked me. Maybe it was the way the letters SELOCH looked like they'd been scratched over again and again by something sharp. 3 days later, I was driving through the rain, guided by old logging maps and a half-dead compass. The deeper into the forest I went, the more the world seemed to slip away. By the time I reached what I guessed was the edge of Sellock, my phone was useless, and the road had become little more than a path swallowed by roots. The village looked like it had been built in a hurry and then left to rot even faster. Wooden cabins tilted like they were drunk, windows boarded up or shattered. The church in the center had no roof, just a cross barely clinging to the top of its steeple. I parked and stepped out into the silence. It was too quiet. No birds, no wind. Just the faint hum of something beneath it all, like a distant voice buried under layers of earth. The first cabin I entered had children's drawings on the wall, crayon figures with blacked-out eyes. One picture showed the village burning, stick people running from something drawn in red with long fingers and no face. Another showed the church, surrounded by people with twisted necks. A date was scrawled on the bottom, October 14th, 1973. I should have left then. I know that now. I set up camp in what used to be the general store. At night, I recorded audio, hoping to catch something for the podcast. I got more than I bargained for. Around 3 in the morning, my recorder picked up soft singing. Not from outside, from inside the building. I played it back over and over. A lullaby in a language I couldn't place, sung in a voice too old to belong to a child. The next day, I found the graveyard. All the headstones had the same date of death, October 14th, 1973. Most names were scratched out. Some had carvings, spirals, strange runes, eyes. One grave was different. It wasn't a stone but a mirror, half shattered with the word return etched into the glass. That night, I dreamed of the church bell ringing. But the bell was gone. Had been for decades. I woke up with dirt under my nails and a splinter in my lip, like I'd tried to eat wood in my sleep. My hands were shaking. My boots were wet. I hadn't gone outside. The next morning, I planned to leave. I packed everything, but when I tried to retrace the trail, the path wasn't there. Trees stood where the road had been. My car was still parked where I left it, but the tires were flat, the inside covered in frost. It was warm outside. I started seeing people after that. Shadows at the edge of the trees. A woman with her back turned, whispering to something buried in the soil. I called out, but she didn't respond. When I got close, she vanished. Not ran. Vanished. I went back to the church. I don't know why. It felt like something was pulling me. Inside, the floor was covered in candles that hadn't been there before. All were lit. In the center, a mirror, cracked but not broken. It was the same one from the graveyard, I swear. But now I could see myself in it, except it wasn't me. The reflection smiled when I didn't. Its eyes were wrong. Too many. It raised its hand and pointed behind me. I turned. No one was there. But when I looked back at the mirror, my reflection was gone. That was 3 days ago, or 3 weeks. I don't know anymore. The sun doesn't rise here like it should. The forest never ends. I walk in circles and end up back at the church. I don't eat. I don't sleep. But I'm not dying. Something won't let me. I found journals in the town hall. They talk about a pact made in desperation. A sickness had spread through Sellock in the fall of 1973. Children were dying. So the elders brought in a man from the east, an outsider with no name but many promises. He taught them a ritual, said it would save their young. It did. But only for 7 days. On the 8th, the town vanished from maps, and the man's price came due. They say his real name can't be spoken by living tongues, but it echoes still through the trees. I've heard it in the wind, in the crackling of firewood, in the way the birds never sing. I think I've become part of the pact now. I hear them at night, the villagers, asking me to stay, to carry the memory, to whisper the name forward. If you find this recording, if my voice ever reaches you, don't come looking. Don't follow the pines. Don't listen for the lullaby. And whatever you do, don't look into the mirror.